Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Carter. I'm here with my co-hosts Mattson.
I'll say. Better red than dead.
And Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
I love that you didn't even try that one. I say, you're digging a hole, boy. You're digging.
I'll say. I didn't do it as good. My voice is still waking up this morning. I'm trying.
Perfect. I love it. Well, we appreciate you tuning in for the ridiculousness that is us. This morning on it's
a Saturday morning recording, JJ. We haven't done this in a hot minute.
It's been a long time.
For those listeners wondering why, if you can gather in JJ's very sleepy voice, JJ does not enjoy early morning. Well, I say early morning. We'll say mid-morning recordings.
Yeah. I don't like mornings. It's not my favorite time of the day, that's for sure. We are here to review Hocus Pocus 2. It was released September 30th, 2022. It was written by Jen D'Angelo and David Kirshner. It was directed by Ann Fletcher. It stars Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy, Whitney Peak, Belissa Escobedo, Lilia Buckingham, Froy Gutierrez, Sam Richardson, and Doug Jones. Oh, don't forget Tony Hale. Three young women accidentally bring back the Sanderson Sisters to modern-day Salem and must figure out how to stop the child-hungry witches from wreaking havoc on the world. I can't read in the morning, apparently, either. Hocus Pocus 2. Okay, let me start this out by saying I know I was a child. And when I say child, I was a child. I was like 11 years old, 12 years old. Hocus Pocus 1 was funny. Like, it was an enjoyable movie. We watched it many times when I was a kid. So I was kind of excited for this one. This is, in my opinion, it's just a Disney money grab. They're like, hey, everybody loves Hocus Pocus. Let's make another one. And we'll make it have no rhyme or reason whatsoever until the very end. And that's it.
That's fair. I was bored most of the time. And when I wasn't bored, I was kind of like, this is stupid. I did enjoy, though, Roomba as a method of transportation.
Yeah, that was funny.
Had me dying. But pretty much everything else was Yeah,
it was subpar. Well, I did laugh that they have a mind of their own, and they were trying to like go different places with it. It was funny.
I want to ask both of you: was this like a growing up? Like, was this a Hocus Pocus the original? Did you watch it a lot?
Mm-hmm.
What about
First
you?
time I watched the original was like 2 years ago because Oshi made me.
Wow.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I'm someone that I'd seen it earlier, like when I was a younger kid, but it was not like a staple. It wasn't something every Halloween time. I think I've seen it like 1.5 times or maybe twice here and there. It's kind of like Halloween Town. Like I'm not into that movie. So I think for me seeing this movie, like I didn't have any expectations, and I think because of that, like it wasn't a bad movie for me. It was just kind of like I knew it was a movie Disney, like JJ said, they knew they could remake it, they could get the people back, have some old laughs, but I'm not here to like I wasn't entertained, but it wasn't special. Although I should say, like Taylor, who loves Hocus Pocus, liked this movie. Like for a sequel, I think the word she would use is probably like pleasantly surprised, or it wasn't just god awful. Like it was respectable enough where she still appreciates the original. The original's better, but this follow up was something that she laughed at certain points, certainly. And so I think she thought it was better than what she thought it would have been.
Yeah, and I watched it a lot, not necessarily by choice. My sister was like 7 years old at the time, 7 or 8, and so we watched it a lot because she thought it was the greatest thing. Because I mean,
Sisters.
It was more geared towards younger kids, obviously, but it was a little dark too at times, and like it was a.
Well, yeah, sucking the souls out of children.
Well, and the first one's worse. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's yeah. So it was interesting, but I mean, for me, like there was some nostalgia there. Like, look, I enjoy the dynamic of the three sisters is funny, especially in the first one, and it carried over into the second one, but the writing wasn't as good. So there was unless it was like a revisit of some of the old jokes and the old like slapstick shit that they did in the first one, the newer things other than the Roomba shit wasn't as funny as the old one. Well, in the first movie, she friggin' rides like the giant like Hoover vacuum. And so she's always got something stupid. And I enjoyed the Swiffer that Sarah Jessica Parker was riding. So I mean, yeah, there were parts of it that made me laugh, but for the most part, like it just didn't hit the same way that the original did. And I think that comes down to, again, what it was intended to be, right? This is like, hey, we know we can get people to sign up for Disney Plus if we do a Hocus Pocus 2, because they've been clamoring for Hocus Pocus 2 for years. And so I think Disney Plus is pulling shit out of the closet going, hey, let's make some money or get some signups for Disney Plus. And I think it's unfortunate that that's why they do something, especially because this could have been an entirely enjoyable movie if it had a little bit better writing. If they'd have brought back the original kids as adults, maybe even for just a cameo, like if you're going to do it, lean into that freaking nostalgia instead of just kind of.
Well, to your point, Chage, it just didn't seem like I thought the sisters, again, in their chemistry on screen, like I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. Like just like it was in the old times. I think where they messed out a little bit is Taylor didn't enjoy like one of the songs they picked when they were up on the stage, whichever that was. She's like, they could have picked a better song. Like that wasn't very Hocus Pocus-esque. And then it seemed like the story was, it just was lackluster. To me, it didn't have like this culminating event where there was like the suspense or like imminent danger. I just didn't feel like that as a viewer. It just felt like they were trying to not die when the sun came up, but I didn't really feel the urgency. And I think that's for me where they really lacked a compelling something to drive the story, even though it should have been the sun coming up, but it just didn't feel like that.
Yeah, there was like a level of intensity in the first one because they were fighting the clock, right? And in this one, it was more like there was never even the threat of the sunrise that got to him. The only one that had any kind of intensity at all was the shop owner, played by Sam Richardson, Gilbert. Like, but even he was like way done early.
Well, yeah, they were like crossing. You just didn't feel. They didn't lean into any of the. It's like they said, "Hey, we have a line here. We're not going to cross like getting too tense or like getting too violent or anything like that."
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think they missed too, because you could have added some of that to where it had that same intensity from the first one where they were worried about the sunrise. Because the other thing that's odd for me that I didn't expect is I actually didn't mind the way that it ended. Like the whole Winifred realizing that her sisters were because she always knew that, but not realizing the price she was going to pay because of the silly reason of not wanting to read the warning, right? Like I thought that was funny. But at the same time, like make it so that they finish the spell right as sunrise is about to happen. So you think that and then she wins that battle, but loses. It just didn't have as much impact because you timed it wrong. There was no victory for her other than the ultimate power, which we always knew that was never actually the most important thing to her. You know what I mean? Like they were without her sisters, that none of them are funny. So except maybe Sarah Jessica Parker, that character's hilarious. But yeah, I just don't. I think they could have done little things that would have just added value. Now, look, this is never going to be like some blockbuster film, but there could have been some. They could have made it better, more intriguing, I guess.
But one thing I will say is I just watched it with Taylor, but I wonder like if I watched it with some of my nieces and nephews or kids that hadn't seen even the original, because most of them wouldn't have seen it unless they just watch it for Halloween, which like Taylor's nephews definitely have, or niece and nephew have. And I wonder, like as a kid, I think this is on par with a lot of kids movies I've seen. So I think as adults and people that have seen this before, we're being a little harsh, but for a kid in a family movie, you're gonna watch this for like Halloween and get into the spirit. Like I don't know, like I think it's like an on par family movie.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, there are worse. I mean, I'd rather watch this than She-Hulk.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd happily rewatch this again over that.
Yeah.
But I want to say the mayor, and I don't know the
Tony
actor's
Hale.
name. I mean,
I love Tony Hale.
That guy was funny. I will never look at a candied apple the same way.
Yeah. I love Tony Hale. I was so excited because I didn't know he was going to be in this, but he takes me back to, like, I don't know if you guys ever watched the TV show Chuck.
I've seen a couple episodes, but I know him more from Arrested Development. Sure.
Yeah, that's what really put him on the map. But he was in the second season, maybe part of the third season of Chuck, and he was assistant store manager for the Buy More. Oh, I loved it. Like, he was one of the funny, and he was a dick. Like, he was a complete and utter asshole in this show. Like, he was the real life foil versus. It was great. So I thoroughly enjoy Tony Hale. And then Casey watched this show called Veep that was about the VP, and I hate that show, but Tony Hale's in it, and he was my favorite character in the show. So thoroughly enjoyed him. 100% with you.
Oh yeah, he was awesome. But I still going back to Mattson's point about the Halloween, there wasn't a whole lot of Halloween in here.
True.
The most was when they were at that fair when you saw
the fair, yeah, the carnival, and so that was kind of cool, starting spooky season. But then they're in a Walgreens, or why are people going into the woods in the middle of the night? What's wrong with people?
Well, that's just because you're kind of a scaredy cat, dude. Like,
yeah.
Normal teenagers, we used to go into the woods all the time when we were like kids. Yeah,
that's where bad stuff happens.
True. Not the bad shit I think you're thinking of, but we got up to some shit in the woods when I was a kid. Yeah, no, I'm with you. That was another piece of the first one that was really good, is that the background was always majorly Halloween. I will say one thing that I hated about this was like the weird mob dancing, like flash mob walking down the street trying to find the mayor, that when they finally found him, they just quit. Like, it just felt like pointless.
It was all set up to steal his candy apple. That's all it was.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of that part. Like, that part really distracted me, pulled me out. I didn't enjoy it.
Well, it's also like the Sanderson sisters never stuck to a plan all the way through the end. Well, like they went halfway and then switched to something else, and so you get that weird. The mob was part of the plan until they decided to turn left.
Yeah, they found his daughter.
Yeah, or they found the village idiot and chased him to the house.
I did enjoy the kid. That kid was funny as balls.
Like, when he found out he was, I was just trying to make conversation. I didn't know I was making fun of them.
I have so many people I have to apologize to. Like, I loved that moron. It was great. I did enjoy that. Yeah, there were moments in this movie that I giggled at out loud. Like, but most of it, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh on it.
There's a couple one-liners in there that I did actually myself laugh at. I wish I could remember all of them, because I was like, oh, that was quite clever and funny. I'll give you that. I will say the teenage drama of the three friends, I gotta be honest, I find that to be pretty believable to an extent, because I've been a part of something like that in my own life when I was younger. When I made the transition from, like, what was it, middle school to high school, and then you get some other friend groups, but you have like your core one, and you're like branching off. I thought it was going to be based off she had a boyfriend and wasn't spending enough time with them, which it kind of was to an extent, because that's happened to me before. I had a girlfriend, my two other friends, I just didn't see them as much, and they were like, we never see you, like, you don't do anything with her, you're always with her, and so that part I was like, man, I can relate, because I've been on both sides of that fence where you don't see that person, or you don't see them because you were someone else, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, teenage drama.
I never gave my friends a choice. They had a girlfriend. They were still hanging out with me. I'll be the awkward third wheel.
You're just third wheeling it?
Yeah. I'm the life of the party.
What did they do with you when they needed to make out?
I just sat there. Go ahead.
Awkward. I mean, when I was a kid, I wouldn't have given a shit.
I need my friend time, okay?
I'd have made out right in front of you. I wouldn't have given two shits. I wouldn't have cared. Especially as a teenager, it was very little that was more important than making out in that moment.
I think I would have cared probably, or at least my girlfriend would have cared. That's probably more of what it was.
I mean, that's probably true, but I'm not taking that into account in this particular moment. I'm just saying I wouldn't have given a shit.
Let's put a blanket on us and go hocus pocus.
Well, yeah, because that's the other thing. When I was a kid, like, we made out in places that were public anyway, because that's what we did, like bus school trips on the bus and shit. Like, so we were never alone. Well, that's not true either, but I mean, we made out a lot in public. That's neither here. I don't know how the hell we're talking about this shit on Hocus Pocus, but it is what it is.
Mattson started it.
Well, I wanted to get a little off the rails, but on the rails. Ask each of you, what was your favorite Halloween costume that you wore when you were a kid or early teenager?
I'll go. I was Santa Claus.
That's awesome.
What?
And I sat up on the roof of my house and threw candy at kids when they came by.
That's amazing.
Ho, ho, ho.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. You know, I don't know. The one that always sticks out to me was when I was a little kid, and we had this old pumpkin outfit that was like this big, looked like a friggin' pillow that I was tucked in with my arms and legs sticking out in a little like stem hat that was on my head. But that's all I remember, because I didn't trick or treat for very long. Like, my parents were the type that once I hit a certain age, I was done. Like, I didn't get to trick or treat. In fact, when I was a teenager, I was living in Kentucky and I snuck out to go over to a friend's house. I told my parents, we're just going over to hang out just so that I could go trick or treat, because I hadn't trick or treated in like 8 years. So it was like,
what, did they stop you at like 6?
I think I was 10.
And you went in 18?
Yeah.
I take Oshi and she's turning 34.
That's questionable.
That's funny. Yeah, seriously, like my parents were like, "Now you're too big." I'm like, "Okay."
I found out that I could just buy bags of candy from Walmart, and
that's fair.
That solved a lot of my candy getting issues. I stopped voluntarily, I think at either 13 or 14, because I wanted to scare people. So my favorite costume, my dad to this day still has. It's not like a Jason style mask. It's kind of like a Jason style mask, but there's no hair. It's bald, and it's you can put it over top, and it's got a little bit of blood on the front. And then I took one of my older siblings' graduation gowns, and my mom had sewn in a black like fabric hood on it, so I put that over my mask, and then I kind of stuffed myself a little bit. And so the first year I sat out there like a statue, or what do you call that? A stuffed. Kind of like a stuffed scarecrow, but I wasn't a scarecrow, and I had the candy in my basket, and then people would come up on our little patio and grab the candy, and then I'd scare them, and I loved doing that. And then the next year was better, because some people were trying to remember if I was fake or real, and then they'd like try and investigate me and like put their finger under my nose to see if I was breathing, or like kind of poke me a little bit. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, we're okay." And they'd go and grab, and I'd scare him again. And one kid I scared, it was 2 steps to get onto like the front of our patio for a front door, and I scared the kid off it, and they fell down like into our bush. It was awesome.
I love that.
And I set up like, I had like scary music above us, the ones where they've like chainsaws and screams. And I took like I made a mannequin head and took one of our giant axe and like chopped it in half like in the yard, and a bunch of stuff like that. So I loved doing that, but I like doing that stuff more than actually trick-or-treating.
Yeah. When I think I was almost 18. The other problem is that I was so high, it was ridiculous. Like, we were freaking blazed. Trick or treat. Dude, we were blazed. So we're running around this little neighborhood in freaking Podunk, Kentucky. Trick or treat. Yeah, I was smoked. So that was another reason. But yeah, I mean, that's how I had to do it. I'm like, hey, I'm going over so and so. All
right, another fun question. What was the candy that 2 questions. The candy that you got like trick or treating, or even to this day, that you hated the most. You were like, these mother effers, like, why am I getting this? And then the candy that you coveted that you would trade for.
Well,
I can go first while you're thinking, since I already have this in my head. I have two of them that I hated. There was one, it was like a peanut butter on the outside and it had a white, like, little cream center.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that candy. Like, low rung, just tasted terrible. It's like, like, it was one of, like, I don't even know if I had a brand on it. It was so terrible. You're like, who even makes this piece of trash? And the other one I never liked, it was a tinfoil, and it looked like a strawberry that had a little wrap around it.
That's
and then
grandma candy.
it was like you'd bite into it and then like it oozed out like the strawberry filling. I hated that candy too. It's like, what is this? Like, come on now. Like, what am I getting here? So candy that I love chocolate more than non-chocolate candy. If I had to pick, but we had a house, one of my neighbors, Mary Jane, she was one of those give out full like king size candy bars. So growing up, it was always Three Musketeers. Those are my favorite. Loved getting those. Pillow soft chocolate, baby.
I'm sorry. The irony of someone named Mary Jane giving out full candy bars is just too good.
Hey, she was a great neighbor. Mary Jane was awesome.
I love that.
Easter, we had egg hunts because of her. Like, she was one of those like MVP neighbors that just loved kids.
Okay, so a couple things here that we need to unpack. Those are called caramel creams, by the way.
They're horrible. You like them?
I love caramel creams.
Oh, JJ,
and on top of that, the best part about them is they're just big cowtails. And if you don't like cowtails, there's something wrong with you.
No.
So, yeah, those are caramel
gross.
creams.
America, the world, don't ever, because I know we have international listeners, they are gross.
Second of all, our core strawberry candy, dude.
That's the company?
Yeah.
Wow,
What
Google.
the hell's wrong with you?
Those are not good. I
That's
did not like
grandma
those as a kid.
candy staple.
And I'll throw in one more. What's the coconut bar? The one with the coconut.
Oh, almonds.
Yeah,
Joy.
I always gave those to my dad. Just every time, pops, take them, hate them.
I hate coconut, so
yeah.
Coconut.
I should rephrase. I hate shaved coconut. Like the texture, it's terrible.
Can't do it.
It's like chewing on wet shoestrings.
But I didn't even give those other two. We always put them in a pile and we just threw them away.
Oh, dude, that's a travesty.
Hey,
dude,
if we had a friend,
5-pound bag.
That's gross. If we had a friend like you, JJ, I would have been trading you for all your good candy, like your M&Ms, your Starburst.
Why would I trade you? You're gonna throw that shit away. I'll just.
But
take
I
it
wouldn't
off
have.
your hand.
I wouldn't have known. I would have caught on and been like, "All right, I have a buyer. Let me hold on to these." Hey, when you got.
I feel like we're having this weird undercover drug conversation this whole time.
That's what it was like, dude. In my family, after you trick or treat, because I have multiple siblings, you got your own tin where you'd categorize and stage your candy, and then you go to your buyer, aka your siblings, or sometimes my friends would come over and we'd make trades.
Oh God, I love it. You got
and buyer. you knew buyer preferences. You knew what you kind of had to like stage first, and like my little brother loves Reese's, and I liked them too. But I was like, I can give a little to get more because I wanted Musketeer bars. I wanted to prioritize with a little bit more like Skittles or Sour Patch Kids or things like that. You had to diversify the flavor portfolio that you had.
That's fair.
And then you would ration out that candy because my house, we didn't have like candy everywhere. So you'd have your spot. You'd have to hide it so your other brothers wouldn't come find your stash and make a unverified transaction.
I feel like we've slipped into like a crazy, cool, dumb episode, like as opposed to
a movie review.
We'll talk about a movie, but I mean it's thematic, right? Like it meets the theme.
Well, I still want to know. Yeah, what are the other? You guys still gonna go through it,
dude? I'm a fat kid. Candy was candy for me as long as it didn't have coconut in it. But I love caramel. Like I'll bathe in caramel. Like that shit's like. My Milky Ways and then,
Rolos are very underrated candy.
God, yeah, I love Rolos. I love Milky Ways. I love Milky Way caramel only.
Oh, yeah,
dude, caramel.
So what don't you? So besides coconut, there's another candy you got. You were just like, no, not me.
I got mad when I'd get like, and don't get me wrong, I like them, just not for Halloween. Don't give me freaking butterscotch or cinnamon discs. Like that used to piss me off. Like.
I don't remember cinnamon disc though. I don't know if I got
lazy.
those.
Like, well, it's the same as the butterscotch ones. It's just they're red and cinnamon flavored.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got you.
That's what. Yeah, they're just the disc, and it's so fucking lazy. Like any wrapped up plastic hard candy like that, like Werther's Original. Come on now, that's your Halloween candy. Fuck, annoys me.
Alec,
I would kill someone if they gave me candy corns.
Ooh, that's fair.
They are the worst.
Like a little baggie of them, like a little pouch.
Yeah.
Little plastic. Yeah.
I eat them, but I don't like. They're not up there.
It's not
that when I was a kid, I hated bottle caps. I used to get pissed at bottle caps too. I love them now, but when I was a kid, bottle caps used to piss me off.
But I absolutely love Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yes,
that's respectable. Like you can't go wrong with those.
I really enjoy peanut butter, just like by itself.
Throw
chocolate in there.
On this subject, just give me 10 seconds.
Oh God!
You already buy us Halloween candy?
He probably did.
Or is this last year's stash?
Jesus, I'm expecting like a little pouch of candy or something, and it's like his whole fucking container.
Since I go to like the movies and I take my nephews, my
gotcha.
sister-in-law Brittany just gave me, for our listeners, you won't be able to see it, but I have a box of.
Oh my God, dude! It wouldn't last.
M&As. I got there's your musketeer. I've got my Milky Way. Another candy that I don't really care for as much. Like it's not bad. Like Snickers is like one of my least favorite like chocolate candy bars, because in those like the variety packs they always put more of those than the other ones, and I just don't eat these. It's not like there's no problem with it, but it's not my thing as much. Yeah. And then what else do I got in here? Do I not have Twix in here? That's the thing I'm missing. Twix is. Oh no, I do right here. It's right there.
Twix.
Shoot, dude. I mean, I might as well make this my breakfast. Like, let's go.
Dude, here's the problem with that. Like, so you have this stash in your house. There's reason I look like I do. That would be gone. It wouldn't fucking last. Like, I'd be like sitting there going.
It's funny, JJ. The other day we were recording. It was Thursday, and you know how we always get hungry, like in our early evening recordings. I was like, I looked at this box and I got a Reese's out. I was like, I'm gonna eat this. And I was like, fuck, if I set this precedence every like Thursday and Monday, I'm gonna be eating one of these. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm telling you.
I actually forgot it was there. I had to clean something by my desk, and I was like, damn, I did not need to know that they were right there. That I'm gonna have to move these because where we record is where I work too. So like every day now I'm just tempted. It's like, man, candy. So
candy's a problem for me.
We got enough in a appropriate tangent, but I think it was fun to just get some insight into the Halloween side of ourselves. But jumping back into Hocus Pocus, like I just want to say again, if the original is one of your favorite jams, I don't think this movie's bad. But if you're looking for a movie to kind of get you in the Halloween spirit, but like Alex said, it doesn't lean so much into the Halloween. Like I don't think you're going to be disappointed if you're watching this with your kids, or even just for nostalgia purposes. You're still going to like the original better, but I don't think it did it a disservice to an extent.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially if you like the original, the trilogy of witches is still fun to watch. I don't, and you can watch, especially Sarah Jessica Parker and Kathy Najimy. Like you can tell they are having the time of their life filming this movie. Like, and that's what made it so fun. The first one was they're just not your typical stereotype of a witch, right? Or a coven of witches. They're goofy, they're weird, and they're funny as hell the way they interact with each other. So I will say that one thing I missed a little on this one that they did really early on when they brought them back, but not as much as they did throughout the show like they did in the first. And that's like the almost Three Stooges-esque physical slapstick comedy. They did it once where she hit Sarah Jessica Parker in the stomach and then like slaps Kathy Najimy, but that was constant in the first one. Like there was always the physical comedy, and so I missed that a little bit in this one because I was laughing my ass off at first. Like when they're in the Walgreens drinking the freaking lotion, and Sarah Jessica Parker's like, "We already drank the life potion," and freaking Bette Midler literally slaps the shit out of her. Like I was like, "Yes, this is my freaking Hocus Pocus." So I was It was really funny. I just wish they'd done more of it instead of trying to get cute and clever and modern. Just redo what you did with an older version. And I'm okay with the new Coven of Witches storyline. I was actually just fine with that, but just lean even more into what made the original great instead of having some extra stuff like the weird flash mob. And I think they just tried too hard, to be honest, now that we're sitting here talking about it. And it's unfortunate. You didn't have to. This was built-in comedy with just having those three on screen again. So they're so likable.
Sisters?
And Bette Midler, like, I don't know how she's not more just popular because she's so damn funny. But all three of them are. Kathy Najimy's hilarious. Bye-bye. It's great.
I was to say, we didn't talk about it at the beginning. I did like the flashback to like original Salem and that, and the actor that, what's the head witch's name again? I always forget.
Are you talking about Winifred? Like Winnie?
Yeah, like the actor that played Winnie, like the young Winnie, and that whole interaction. I quite like that. I thought I thought they did actually very well. I enjoyed that backstory and the whole the Reverend thing. That joke that came out from that, like that. That's that opening 10 minutes. Honestly, I thought was actually done really, really well. And quite enjoyed the backstory that they provided there. I just thought it was going to be like you talked about earlier, JJ. I thought it was well written to that point, and then they just kind of lost their way, and there wasn't as good of a connection between the two because the whole we need to kill the mayor thing. If they had leaned into that and been more over the top and made that the focal point, I think that could have worked once they figured that out. But they didn't really do that. It was kind of a side thing once they found out. I would have liked that even more if because Hocus Pocus isn't meant to be like serious to an extent. I mean, we got three sisters that are like batshit crazy at times and trying to suck the life out of little kids. So I think they tried too hard, and because they tried too hard, they tried to make it more of a serious movie that they wanted to make sense, and that's not really what Hocus Pocus is necessarily about.
Yeah, and I agree completely with the first few minutes. I'm watching going, oh my God, they're going to be torturing Tony Hale for the rest of the show, and it's going to be beautiful because he plays a dick so well. So when he was the Reverend at the beginning, I was like, yes. And then he's this goofy, really sweet mayor, and how funny would it have been if they hadn't gotten off of chasing him and they'd been torturing this dude the whole episode trying to kill him, and he's just screaming and running away. I'm with you. That would have made this movie 10 times better because just that comedic level would have been perfect. So great point. And for like the fifth time in the last 2 weeks, another freaking Game of Thrones call out with Hannah Waddingham rather. Like she's been like, what really pushed her over is the soccer coach movie show on Apple. What's that?
Oh, Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. But she was a very not nice character in, I think, season 5 or 6 of Game of Thrones. So I'm glad to see she's found some fame too. Hannah Waddingham, who played the witch that gave them the book. And they were overly subtle about the fact that she had used that all power spell and lost her coven. I think if they'd leaned into that a little bit more, it would have been an interesting addition until the end when you're like, oh, that's why she was by herself and all sad and shit. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think it felt rushed. Maybe it wasn't that they tried too hard. Maybe it's that they rushed it. They're like, oh shit, we need to do this. And then they didn't take some time. So anyway. All right, let's rate this thing. Mattson, you go first, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
I'm telling Taylor.
Yeah, like it's I've debated between a 2.5 and a 3, but I think it's a solid average movie as far as the remakes go. For me, I wasn't really invested in the original, so this one definitely had its laughs. Like as we talked about, I did laugh at multiple points in this movie. But am I here to say it's a good movie? No, but is it a movie that ushers in the holiday spirit to an extent? Are you going to enjoy watching with other people and catching a laugh? Or if you're into the first Hocus Pocus, will it feel nostalgic for you? I do think it will, because like Taylor loves the original Hocus Pocus. to the fact that we're watching it tomorrow. Not looking forward to that, but I think it delivers enough in the genre that it'll appease many of the watchers, but it's not like Top Gun Maverick where it just smashed it, because this is in that similar vein where this movie was a remake of many years later, and that one did it way better to an extent, where this one I think fell short, but still something that I think you'll find entertaining, and definitely one of the better movies we've seen, at least on streaming review, compared to to Pinocchio, for instance, or just absolute garbage. Like, if I had to watch this again, would I be upset? Like, no, like I still think I'd laugh at some spots. I do think I'd probably be on my phone doing some things and like moving in and out of the room at times, but I wouldn't mind it being on the background again, or watching it with people that haven't seen it yet, that are some of my nieces and nephews. I still think it'd land. So 2.5.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna just jump right into that bandwagon and say 2.5 as well. I wanted to like it more, but I thought I would hate it more than I did. So it was one of those things where, because I do have some tie to the original and it was pretty nostalgic for me, there were moments of really big nostalgia. Like, I thought they wasted the black cat. I was like, oh, hey, look, it's Binks. And then it wasn't. And then, but was it? Because there was a post-credit scene. I don't know if you guys watched that, but there's the whole other black flame candle possibilities out there. So it's an intriguing thought that they might do more if they do it better. But like, there was enough nostalgia to make me go, oh, I'm watching Hocus Pocus too. But there was enough that was wrong with it, or that wasn't good enough with it, that I went, oh, I'm watching Hocus Pocus too. So it's just one of those things where I wish they'd done better, but they could have done much worse on top of it. So on average, that's what it is. It's an average movie. I didn't hate it, didn't love it, but it was funny to watch at moments. So 2.5. All right, Alec.
All right. Up. I'm going to go a little bit lower and give it a 2. I didn't really enjoy the first one. Didn't really enjoy this one. Oshi's kind of my peg for these movies because she loves the first Hocus Pocus movie, and she fell asleep during this. So that was a pretty telling moment there. There were parts that I enjoyed. Again, Tony Hale, I know we talked about him a lot, but he was exceptionally good. And then at the end, I really liked it up until the point where they gave Winifred feelings. I hate it when Disney does that. Like, they do it with every single good villain they have. They give them feelings.
It's fair.
Again. So that one pulled me out a little bit, but it had its moments, right? Roomba shoes, and you know, Roomba came back into play, getting rid of the salt circle for him, which I thought was beautifully done. But yeah, it's a 2. It's a decent streaming movie, but a clearly obvious cash grab, like you said, JJ.
Sure. I did love when the Roombas like went opposite directions around the circle. They love cleaning up messes. Shit was pretty funny. All right, well, there it is. Hocus Pocus 2. Yeah, it was all right. Could have been worse. That's all I can say about it. With that, Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us.
Yeah, you can find us wherever good podcasts can be found, on Apple, Spotify, to name a few. What's Our Verdict reviews. If you want to chime in on social media, you can check us out on TikTok. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of TikToks from this one about candy. At least I hope so. Instagram and Facebook. We are live on Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays, Rings of Power and House of the Dragon on YouTube and Facebook. Thursdays, we are doing live and/or shows. You can listen to us live at 6 p.m. Mountain Time or 8 p.m. Eastern, F Central Time. Or if you just want to listen to the podcast, those will come out. We're doing She-Hulk as well. Things like that. Our website's currently under construction, but if you want to get a hold of us, either slide into our DMs or email us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com. And lastly, we have our Patreon page up, so if you want to get some behind-the-scenes outtakes, you want to vote on some of the things that we're going to review, if you want to see exclusive trailer reactions from us for new movies that are coming out, or if you just want to give us something to listen to, like Charles is going to be doing here shortly, check out our Patreon at What's Our Verdict podcast. Look at the tiers that you can contribute to and get to know us even better.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Thank you. With that, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!